Hi, I'm Marlene and I'm here to talk to you about how to be successful in your first day as a product manager. Now, when I'm talking about the first day, I'm not referring to the day when you arrive to a company and you start receiving all of these onboarding meetings, talks about company mission and vision. I'm talking about the day when you're actually able to put in some work as an actual PM. Now, I've gathered this in 10 points so it's a little bit easier to digest. Number 1, prepare your materials. Try to always have your materials with you. This means have a notepad or a notebook, something to write with. If you don't have anything, just take a sheet of paper from the printer and you appreciate having it around. If you forgot your pen, just go to any colleague and ask them for a pen for the day. Like in the first day especially, you have a lot of casual conversations that happen next to the coffee machine, like leaving a meeting, when you're going through the hallway, and you do want to have that notebook to write something down on. Whenever that happens, imagine you encounter someone in the coffee machine and they're actually giving you a good input about something that you're going to be working on later on. Try to take them to the area closest to your desk as soon as possible. Like, try to walk faster with them so that you can actually gather these insights and write them down as soon as possible and not forget about them. Number 2, understand how the company is organized. Now, I know everyone knows the meaning of each department within a company. However, the responsibilities of a department are very different from company to company. Also from industry to industry, or from a startup that has just passed through the growth stage to a large company that is already in a dinosaur mode. Like, you really don't want to make assumptions about what it is that the department is doing. Try to get an idea, ask the person of the department, or ask around, like check the documentation, check the knowledge sharing portals, even if it's like a SharePoint of Microsoft or a Notion page. Try to understand what it is that each department does. Next one, number 3, understand your responsibilities. Talk to the person who hired you. This could be the VP of product, head of product, product director, CPO, CTO, CEO, whoever it is that made the decision to actually hire you and who drove you through the interview process, and try to understand what it is that they want from you. What are the expectations towards the role? Most probably when you apply for the job or the project or whatever it is, there was a job description. However, the job description could have changed from the moment you applied to the moment you joined. Could have been a long time in between. The company priorities might have changed, or maybe already someone started taking over some of the role, some part of the role that you were gonna take over. So do have a conversation about what it is that you should be doing, and also don't feel bad about pushing back and determining whether the amount of workload that you're getting is too much. This might happen, especially if you're in a younger startup where the company just wants you to do too much. It's super common. Like, when I was younger, I was used to get excited whenever this happened. I thought, oh my God, it's because I'm so good that they want me to do all these initiatives. Like, they are giving me most of the work because I can do it. And no, just don't be the dumb loser who's gonna take over all of that. It's like, it's a beginner's mistake to actually do that. Just say, hey, I just joined, I don't know enough about this, let me just settle in and actually become confident with one of the products before I can start taking over this and this and this. Rather than just telling your lead, hey, I'm going to be focusing on this and that, and I just want to start with this or with this other thing. Like, make the right questions. Like, ask them, what is most critical for the company at this moment? Where could I drive the most value to start with? Like, which type of product or which vertical do you want me to focus first on? They will appreciate that you actually want to do this and not just start randomly anywhere. They might not have an idea also, and they might tell you, hey, wherever you want, like where is the most important priority. They might not have any prioritization done, so you might have to take care of that. Number 4, request an organigram. You do want to know who does what in the organization. You want to know who belongs to which team. You do want to understand how many people are making decisions within a department, how many people are doing the execution, what person is driving the strategy, what person is just executing. You do want to have a look at that. Most probably the ideal organigram for a product manager would be very different from that of the company. However, you can get a lot of information just from looking at who is responsible for what. Ideally, you'll be able to make a copy or something and make some notes of who's responsible for this product, who's responsible for this area of work, who's doing this part, who's doing that part. And keep it to yourself, so later on when you start working on features, you know who to ask things from. Now, there's a possibility in which a company is pretty young or it's a startup, there's no organigram, or maybe there's an organigram but it's like an old one and it's not even up to date. Take the effort to actually complete that organigram. Like, it will be a good opportunity to get to know the different people in the company. Like, just get to know them and talk to them and say, hey, do you know who does this in the company? Do you know who's responsible for that? They'll give you insights that you might not have gotten by yourself just by looking at that organigram. And it will also start allowing you to spread your tentacles around the company. Like, start creating those channels of communication and opening up new ways to actually talk to different people and try to understand what it is that they are doing. And also, who should you be careful with, who you should have a different type of conversation with. I don't know, just small details that might come up in a conversation. Number 5, set up get-to-know meetings. This is, like, for me, it's the most maybe annoying part of the work, like just going through this part of scheduling. Like, I do like to take part of the meetings, but the scheduling part is like the most annoying because I always fear that I'm gonna forget about someone. Many companies, especially if they're in a rush, like they will have already prepared a list for you of people to talk to. This is like the boring approach for me because I do like to do the mental exercise of thinking, okay, who should I be talking to within the organization? What are my responsibilities that I've talked to before? Okay, within this responsibility, maybe I will need to talk to this person, this person, this person. It will allow you to think and also remember the names and remember the teams, remember the people. And you can always build that list yourself and contrast it with the list that you've got, and perhaps then going to the person you're reporting to and asking them, hey, I've thought I'm going to talk to these people. What do you think? Is there someone I'm missing? And then make your scheduling happen. Like, organize maximum 2 or 3 meetings per day. Don't do more than that because it's going to be overwhelming. You do want to pay attention and to listen and actually understand what the person is talking to you about. It's going to be more a get-to-know meeting, not coming in with a personal agenda. You know, like, you don't want to talk about features. You don't want to talk about what it is that you're going to be working on in the short term. You just want to get to know their background, what moves them, what are they able to do, are they a more strategic person, are they a more hands-on person, are they more operational, are they like reactive, are they proactive. Like, this can actually help you get a lot of information that will make things easier later on. There are now 3 types of get-to-know meetings. One is with other product managers, the second is with your stakeholders, and the third one is with your product team. The one with the product managers is the easiest one, and it tends to be for me like the least important one. I tend to first focus on the product team and stakeholders, and finally on the other product managers. But you do want to get to know your peers, like who's going to be in the same tribe as you, or I don't know, whatever they call it within a company, who is going to be in a product guild with you, like who's going to have bi-weeklies with you, who is in your specific area, who is in your vertical or in your domain, subdomain, whatever it is. The stakeholders, this can be a tricky one because something that happens quite often is, like, apart from getting to know each other, understanding each other's background, many stakeholders are going to bring an agenda to that meeting. They're going to set up this little trap for you to fall in. Just because you want to people please, or they'll think you want to people please, they'll set up this little piece of cheese in a mousetrap, and the moment you say yes to something, basically you fall in for the trap. You're the mouse that got caught. So you really don't want that to happen, and you want to figure out upfront how to handle that conversation. Like, the moment they say something like, hey, like, there's this feature, it's amazing, blah, 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 you can say, yeah, it's amazing, but you don't say, yes, I'm going to do it. Because very quickly they'll try to get you to say yes many times. Then they'll say, because, yeah, we should prioritize this, right? And then the moment you say yes, you've basically fallen for the trap. So don't do that. Just say, hey, I just arrived. I haven't seen the big picture yet. I don't know where everything's standing. I haven't even looked at the backlog. I cannot tell if we are going to be working on this anytime soon. So let's just have a conversation later on. Like, I've taken notes of everything you said. Yeah, take notes of everything they said, and just leave it for a later time. In case what they talk to you about is actually the responsibility of another product manager, don't just say, hey, this is not my responsibility. Like, do take your notebook, take notes, and say, hey, this is not my responsibility. However, I've taken notes of everything you just said. I'm going to pass it to my other colleague. Can you contrast my notes first? Did I understand this correctly? Is this what you meant? Blah, blah. If they say yes, you pass it to the other PM, and you say, hey, the stakeholder, I had an intro call with them. However, they started bringing up this topic. Can you please take a look at it? I'm going to tell them that to reach out to you. And then go to the stakeholder, or open a new chat with the two of them and say, hey, this is the person that is actually responsible for this. I've passed the topic. So, like, I hope everything works out, and we'll chat and talk to you both soon, or something like that. I think it's interesting to know how much it is that they can do, because you don't want to have meetings when the people that are attending those meetings don't have a clue of what you're talking about. There might be an occasion where your language is perhaps too technical, or the information that you're giving is unclear for them. Like, they might not understand something, and they're not going to want to say that they don't understand. So first, try to get an idea of how much they know, so that you can tailor the speech in whatever meeting you have afterwards. Tailor the speech, tailor the message. Third type of meetings, those are the ones with your product team. You might have a data analyst, maybe you will have a UX designer, you will have the engineers, and then perhaps you also have an engineering manager and a Scrum Master. The data analyst, it will be more of get to know how each person works, getting to know a little bit of their background. How do they prefer for your request to come? What are their iterations like? How do they organize themselves within the data team, or within the team that they report to? Like, is it bi-weekly? Is it weekly? How do they organize their responsibilities? How much time up front should you give them if you want to ask something from them? This is very important, because sometimes there's not enough data analysts within a company, and they are being shared within teams. Or even when you have a fully dedicated data analyst to your team, if they are not doing something, they're going to be dedicated to a full-time in-house project. And you really don't want to need them and then being dedicated to that project or to another team. So have that conversation about how much time do you need up front if I want something from you from data. And when it comes to UX designer, it's similar. You do want to talk about their preferred way of working. When do they want to be involved? Is it at the ideation process? Is it when you're already creating the concept? Is it when you're defining the MVP? Like, at which level do they want to be involved? At which stage? When do they start getting requirements? Do they get documentation? Do they just get a meeting where they understand what the idea is? Is it enough to pitch the problem to solve? Like, do they want to be involved in defining how to solve that problem? And then you just define what is the best path forward for both of you, and how you're going to meet, and when your meeting's going to happen, for example. The next one, the engineers. You do want to know what it is that they like to do, what they don't like to do. What do they expect from you as a product manager? Like, perhaps they were really awaiting your arrival, and they think, okay, this person has been already for 1 week in the company. They probably already have a roadmap, and they ask you on your first day, hey, where's the roadmap, or what's the vision? And you're like, hey, this is my first day. They're like, but you arrived here last week. And you say, okay, yeah, I arrived here last week, but today is the first day where I can actually put in some. The Scrum Master, you might or might not have a Scrum Master. It kind of depends on the company budget. In some cases, you will be the product master yourself. That has happened. Sorry, the Scrum Master yourself. That has happened to me, and it's actually pretty nice, because you are building the culture with the team. And actually, I did have the situation when I was in a startup and there was a Scrum Master. They stopped showing up pretty quickly after 2 weeks, because there was no purpose for them to be in those meetings. Like, the dynamic was very good, the team was feeling good, everything was flowing, everything was going very well and very fast. So the person was just slowing us down. And at some point, he started going to other teams because there was not much to do within our team. In other occasions, for example, in a larger corporation, I did have the situation once where I was just I had gotten onboarded, and then I started working, and basically a lot of things happened. Layoffs, people didn't get their promotions, people getting angry because they were forced to change teams. All the engineers are super angry. No conversations have happened. Like, they haven't been able to talk to whoever made those decisions, and they are frustrated. And there's someone that needs to address this conversation. You as a PM cannot solve every problem that the team has, and if you have an engineering manager, perhaps they've had the time to talk about this. But if you didn't, or they didn't, sorry, or you haven't had the talk, when you go through a retro, you do want to have a neutral person conducting that retro. Next one, engineering manager. If you're lucky enough to have an engineering manager, thank the gods. Like, really, thank the gods, because you've just gotten the lottery. Like, this person is aimed at being a co-lead for your team. You're both basically like in a business marriage of sorts. Like, consider the other person like your partner, and the person that is gonna help the team basically be successful in building that product. You're not responsible for the engineering team, let's say like that. The engineering team doesn't belong to the product manager, it belongs to the engineering manager. So please have this in consideration whenever you assume that the engineers are going to work on whatever you throw their way. It doesn't work like that. The engineering manager could easily say, I'm taking all of the engineers, I'm putting them in this other thing, I'm putting them to work on technical debt 100% of the time, and you have no say as a product manager, and that is perfectly logical. And this never happens, and you'll probably, well, it does happen, but it almost never happens. Like, you will have, like, in the engineering manager, like, supporting you and saying, hey, what it is that we need to do, and they'll assign the team for you to be able to drive the product forward. If they are not able to do something later on, like if you see they're slacking, don't blame them. Don't say it in front of the team. Like, just cover for them. Like, try to pick up the slack. If you see they cannot reach for something, offer to do it yourself. Like, just be a collaborative partner. Then they'll do the same for you. You shouldn't expect it, but most probably it will happen. So, number 6, join meetings, observe, listen, and take notes. That means most probably on your first day, you'll only be able to join a daily stand-up, or maybe not even that. Or maybe they are there and you actually have some meeting to attend to, like a retro or a planning or anything that might be part of that day of the week. And in such occasion, you really don't want to go in there and start saying, oh, this should be done this other way. Why don't we do it this other way? Like, first you listen, you observe, you take notes. And if you think, hey, actually, I think this is not very productive, you make notes of it. And then at some point you discuss it with your engineering manager or with the Scrum Master or with the engineering team. But first you do need to adapt into their dynamic. You're not there to disrupt it. There are cases in which the team hasn't had a product manager before, and basically they have been lost in the sea, just on a boat without a proper direction. So in that moment, you do want to have a plan. In the first day, when you start joining those meetings, don't give advice where it's not wanted. Like, just first listen and try to understand the team, and then just have conversations around it, but don't do it on your first day. Number 7, going over the product. This means going in depth in the product. You do want to experience the product as if you were a user, write down the problems, trying to get some material for your backlog. Basically, trying to understand, are there any bugs? What are the steps to replicate? Are there any frustrations for the users? What are they? If you just arrive, you're able to see like the typical problems that they've got so used to seeing that they don't notice them anymore. So use that ability or that power that you have at the beginning to make a load of notes and take them for your backlog to include at some point into your roadmap or whatever it is that you want to be working at. Number 8, go over the tracking. This one is one that I see a lot of product managers skipping, and you really don't want to skip this one. Like, if you don't know how the tracking works, just ask someone from data. But if you don't have a clue about tracking, just ask, hey, is there a debugger that I can use? Is there some kind of clickstream or any kind of tracing tool that I can use to determine what it is that I can see within a typical user journey? Do try to go through the user journey yourself and take notes on the events that get triggered. Then I don't know, search for a lexicon or a glossary, something that allows you to see what each event aims at measuring or identifying. You will most probably not be able to get a full picture from the beginning, but you will get an idea, and then when you start going through meetings, you'll be able to contrast in real time by checking, okay, is that something else? And it will help you actually a lot with your next point, which is number 8, going over the numbers. It's pretty easy to understand dashboards or whether a user journey works in one way or another when you understand the events that trigger it. Go through the dashboards of the C-level, of higher management. Go through the dashboard of other product managers. Go through the dashboard of your data analyst if you have one in the team. Try to understand your basic funnel. Try to see what the big picture looks like. Try to get a glimpse of whether there's a lot of change in between weeks. How is the company measuring? Are they measuring on a monthly basis? Are they measuring on a weekly basis? Is there an aging time? Try to take notes, because at some point you're going to start going to meetings. Maybe it's the weeklies with other product managers or bi-weeklies or whatever. And you are going to want to know what the numbers are like. You don't need to memorize at the beginning, just take notes. It will look good if you actually know them and you're able to have conversations about whether one number is better or worse. Number 10, clarify your plan with your lead, the person you're reporting to. Just talk to them and explain to them what it is that you will do within your first days, first weeks, or first months. You already have an idea of what the product is like, what are the areas that you're responsible for. You start scheduling the meetings, you know more or less how much free time you'll be. You'll know when you'll get to know the full team. So try to really explain what it is that you'll be doing. You really don't want them to be the ones knocking on your door and saying, hello, how's the first day going? Because that's how's the first day going. It's not really a how's the first day going. It's what the hell are you doing? They want to know that you're not wasting their time and that you're actually putting your time into something productive for the company. Because most probably, the hiring processes of product managers are super slow and they do want you to start ASAP. Just share the plan before they have to ask you and explain why it is important to follow it this way. Also ask whether they see that there's something missing in that plan, or whether they consider that there should be something to take into consideration to those first days, weeks, whatever, and put it in if there is. And this will actually make them quite happy, because they'll see okay, we didn't hire a junior, we didn't hire a newbie, this person knows what they're doing. Now, I hope this helps. If you have any kind of comments, recommendations, or suggestions, just ping me and I'll be happy to listen to your input. And have a great first day as a PM.